Okay, I think the evidence is starting to pile up now. Guys, I don't think Fame and Misfortune is canon. For one thing, if you paid attention in that episode, Rainbow Dash revealed to all of Equestria that Daring Do is real, but then Daring Dun came out and she's all like, oh yeah, everyone still thinks Daring Do is a fictional character. Huh? Journal? What journal? Also in Fame and Misfortune, the Cutie Mark Crusaders start talking about putting together a Cutie Mark day camp, and they use the journal to attract new members. Now in Marks and Recreation, we see them get the idea for the day camp at a completely different time, and they start advertising it in a completely different way. Now I know it's common for the show to ignore continuity from time to time, either for the sake of comedy or because the writers just slip up occasionally. One example of this is from It Isn't the Main Thing About You, when Fluttershy has Harry the Bear make Rarity a wig from grass and leaves and twigs and deer shit when, her brother is actually a trained hairstylist. Ultimately, it doesn't really break the show, it just feels like a missed opportunity. But I think the whole business with the Friendship Journal goes beyond that. The only way to really make sense out of what's happening is that Fame and Misfortune exists in its own pocket universe separate from the rest of the show. It's an Elseworld story whose only purpose is to say, what if bronies found a way to get into Equestria? But anyway, let's talk about Marks and Recreation. Like I said, this has the Crusaders putting together a Cutie Mark day camp so they can help multiple ponies at once. The first thing that surprised me here is that the episode focuses mostly on Rumble and his big brother Thunderlane, who apparently just got into the Wonderbolts. Both Rumble and Thunderlane were officially introduced back in Season 2 in the episode Hurricane Fluttershy, and since then they've gotten more attention from the fandom than almost any other background characters on the show, even if it is mostly to show Rumble being shipped with Spike, but still, to have these characters get actual development like this is pretty cool. The next big surprise was that this episode kept me constantly guessing what the nature of the conflict was and where everything was going to go, but without ever feeling dumb or forced. In the beginning, it looks like Rumble's angry because he's always being overshadowed by his brother, but that turns out not to be true. He actually looks up to Thunderlane a lot, and we even get to see that Thunderlane is a great big brother who's really proactive at making sure Rumble gets brought up right. But anyway, it then looks like Rumble has a thing against cutie marks because they force you to only do one thing the rest of your life, and he even makes a good point asking Apple Bloom when was the last time she studied potions. And of course that is one thing about growing up. You get more freedom and more resources to do what you want, but at the same time you get more responsibilities, which ultimately means you have less time to do what you want. As an adult, you suck it up, you deal with it, and you try to figure out how to balance everything, but as a little kid it can be confusing to think, hey, I know I'm really great at writing poetry, but man, I really just want to draw circles. If there's some way I could make a living spending the rest of my life drawing circles and being the cutest, most soul-crushingly adorable thing ever, that would be perfect. Ultimately, we find out that Rumble's big hang-up is that he wants to be a great flyer and possibly a Wonderbolt just like his brother, but he's afraid of getting a cutie mark that will contradict that and force him to do something else. And if all this sounds familiar, it's because the Crusaders already went through all of it themselves. There's even a great callback to Bloom and Gloom here. And that's another interesting thing. The Crusaders are still kids themselves, so even though they've already been through all this stuff that these other kids are struggling with, they don't always know how to explain it properly or how to maintain authority when someone else takes over their entire operation. It's weird to think that they have to be the adults here when they're surrounded by kids who really aren't that much younger than they are. On the flip side of that, it's kind of like when you're a senior in high school or maybe you just started college and you get a teacher who just graduated, so he looks like you but with a shitty looking goatee. Not even kidding. That happened with my high school English class and I gave my teacher so much shit about that. Also didn't help that I was a better writer than he was, but anyway. In the end, this was a pretty good Crusader episode. The song was okay. I'm probably not going to be humming it later, and it kind of felt like it was just there to fill up time. And how the hell do they snap their fingers when they don't even have fingers? But otherwise, I don't really have anything bad to say here. Some people brought up the issue that everyone seems to throw around the term blank flank a lot here, and it's not entirely clear if you should be offended because it was originally brought up by Diamond Tiara back in Season 1. Personally, that makes me think of something Louis C.K. once said, and I'm going to paraphrase here. I think it's interesting that blank flank is both the proper term and the slur for an entire group of ponies depending on how much stank you put on it. Oh, saying blank flankiness is cute, so clearly there's nothing wrong here. And speaking of which, Vincent Tong really surprised me as Rumble. I'm convinced that he's trying to become king of the one-off characters at this point. And generally speaking, the fandom is a bit split when it comes to the Crusader episodes, and some people have even argued that they had nothing left to do after the Fault in Our Cutie Marks. So I think it's really cool that they still have new challenges to face, this time with them metaphorically trying to guide their younger selves. If this is any indication for the grown-up episodes for the rest of the season, then I think it's safe to say that Season 7 is on track to finish off at least as strong as it began. As always, let me know what you think in the comments down below, and I'll see you next time.